Right, we're sitting down with Rob Thomas from RJDJ. For those out there who don't know, what is RJDJ?
RJDJ is an iPhone application, and in simple terms it makes it really easy to have loads of fun with music in really crazy ways. And so some of those ways are sampling sounds from reality around you and putting those into the music and kind of interweaving those into the music in real time. Sensing how you're moving and changing the music based on that. Sensing how you're touching it, sensing where you are on Earth, doing all kinds of crazy stuff and affecting the music in really dynamic ways.
Okay, and what's your role within the company?
I'm a reactive music producer, so I work with artists to try and articulate their ideas about what they could do with reactive music, and form that into these applications and scenes that we make. We call them scenes because they're like a sort of space of exploration within music. It will never be the same twice, and you can explore these different scenes by moving around them rather than a linear track which goes from start to end.
Okay, and RJDJ is obviously quite a unique service. I'm really interested to know how you became involved with the company.
Well, I'd actually been doing media composition for quite some time for very specific things like radio and advertising, and then started to do video game music, which in many ways has sort of pioneered a lot of these techniques of making music respond to events within gameplay. And it was a kind of natural fit really to try and get music, conventional music, to sort of become a soundtrack to your life in the way that video game music does for a game. What we're kind of doing with RJDJ in some ways is making music become a soundtrack to your life. So it's analysing the environment and making it respond.
And you said that you work with the content generation side of that kind of service. Mm-hmm. Is RJDJ effectively a program that people can use to release music, or is it more about consuming music?
It's both, really. It's a platform for releasing reactive music, and currently it's on the iPhone, but we plan for it to go much further than that. But it's also, we also supply a lot of tools for people to take existing music studio material and then kind of reactify that and drag and drop it into a very simple interface, which you can then turn into something you can put on the phone and distribute through our platform. And that's we've got an in-app store which people can sell those scenes through. So it's both about creation, we're kind of about distribution in some ways, and then also it's very much about the listening experience, which is, you know, something that has a completely different level of engagement really to a conventional track. It's a very different thing.
And the store element of the application, is that how you're generating finance for the company?
Yeah, I mean that's the sort of model really, in that we take a cut basically. Apple takes a very big cut, but we kind of take a cut of the revenue from the scenes. And but then a lot of people, when if you want to get the app, the Player app is free, and there's a lot of people that distribute their scenes for free within the app as well, which you can download. So there's a lot of content out there that's free, but there's also this paid option as well, where you can buy stuff through the app, and that's really easy for people to do because the way that Apple have created the in-app purchasing is very transparent, and it all goes through the iTunes account system, so it's very easy for people to do.
I read a statistic recently that Apple control 99.5% of the world app market. How do you find working with the Apple infrastructure?
Well, in some ways it's really great because basically you've just got one point that you just go to, you submit it, and it gets approved or it doesn't. And we haven't had any issues in terms of things not being approved really. So it's it's a really great platform in that sense, and they make great hardware, and it's a really interesting and pioneering field to sort of develop for. I mean, there are kind of certain frustrations about the way you have to sort of do things. But I mean, limitations are kind of limitations, and they kind of make you be creative ultimately. But saying that, I mean, we are developing an Android client at the moment, so soon that will be fully featured, and you'll be able to run RJDJ stuff on there. And looking at other platforms as well. So.
Okay, that was kind of preempting my next question. Are you going to remain purely mobile applications, or do you want to take it to kind of desktop PCs?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting sort of question, really. We haven't really sort of formally decided what that strategy will be, but that's definitely something we're considering. And I guess, I mean, my talk today was about music as software, and ultimately, when music becomes software and the idea of experiencing music in this way, for that to be successful, it kind of has to be a ubiquitously compatible thing, in the same way as an MP3 is to a certain extent. So that's a very ambitious and sort of lofty goal, but it is something that we think about,
Okay, and where are you at as a company in terms of the size and kind of investment that you've generated?
Well, I can't really talk about investment, but we've got a London office which has got about 10 people, and we've got some other people around the world who are basically all of the sort of, well, a lot of the experts in the field of reactive or interactive and generative algorithmic music. So, and also some very advanced developers, both on a lot of different platforms. So yeah, I mean, we're growing at the moment in terms of staff, and in terms of investment, yeah, I mean, that's not something that I kind of deal with really at the company, but yeah.
Sure. Well, we won't probe too hard on that. What's the uptake been like for RJDJ?
Well, I mean, initially when the app was released, it had a huge positive reception. Really, it was one of the very early sort of hits really of the App Store, and it's been featured. Apple have featured it as one of their apps of the year. So it's I guess it's a kind of it's been very well received. There's a sort of a tipping point that we're trying to get to where people will really start to listen to reactive music in the way that they listen to normal music or conventional music, and that way of allowing people to understand what RJDJ is and getting to that point is a kind of real journey. But we're kind of getting there, and the stats are starting to show that. So.
Would you say that RJDJ is kind of the second generation of how people consume music, and that building on the stuff that people like Last.fm did?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, one of the things, Michael Breidenbrucker, the founder of RJDJ, was one of the co-founders of Last.fm, and I was kind of saying in my talk that basically it's very similar in some ways conceptually, in that Last.fm is sort of personalising the playlist into individual sort of personalised, tailor-made items, and RJDJ goes right down inside the music in a very, very powerful way. It goes right down to the notes of the music if you wanted to, and each individual sound. But and what's interesting is that Michael actually had the idea of RJDJ before Last.fm, and but quite simply, the technology wasn't around at the time to be able to do it, and in some ways the market and the world wasn't really ready for that. It felt like something else needed to happen at a higher level, at a kind of song level, before you get there. So that's how sort of Last.fm kind of started, I guess. But now we're sort of getting right down inside music, and like the demonstration we had today, where you've got someone who's created a piece of music, and then somebody else is kind of rapping over it and creating their own version of it, and now you can kind of share that, and it becomes like this amazing viral thing. Is a really interesting revelation, really, for music.
Seems to me a little bit like you're trying to create your own marketplace with the application. What would you say is your main competition that you face?
Well, I'd say the main competition we face is music itself. In some ways, in a weird kind of paradoxical way, that, you know, conventional music, studio, very, you know, powerfully produced music is an incredibly emotive and powerful experience, and people like music to be what it is, and they like it to be a linear and predictable, and they can remember that experience and associate it with events, and that's something that we've got very used to, and what we're doing, I guess, is building a culture around the experience of reactive music, which is similar to that. And it's a kind of cultural and social thing about getting used to what that means for music and what that means to listen to music. So I'd say that's, without doubt, the sort of competitor in some ways. But there are other interesting companies that are doing kind of similar stuff in this field. I mean, MXP4 are another company that are doing interesting interactive sort of ways of distributing music. And there are some kind of differences about how we approach that, but they're a similar type of company. And then there's also similar sorts of companies like EchoNest as well, that sort of analyse and understand music and create metadata based around music, which could mean that it becomes kind of interactive somehow, you know. So it's an interesting sort of ecology of people working in this area.
Excellent. Well, I'm very much looking forward to the Android application for IJDJ.
Cool.
So,
Yeah, so
I'll let you get on with it. Thanks a lot, mate.
Okay, thanks.